Now at 6.
No sentencing you receive will ever be long enough.
The sister of beating victim Bryan Stow confronts the two men who left him permanently brain damaged. The defendants agreed to a plea bargain that could set one of them free immediately. It has taken 3 years for Bryan Stow's family to see punishment handed down. Grant Loda shows us what happened in that Los Angeles courtroom today. Grant.
Well, Pam, it was opening day at Dodger Stadium 2011. A verbal confrontation in the stands turns physical in the parking lot, and these two men are eventually charged with the brutal attack today. They were sentenced for their crime. One of the defendants, 30-year-old Marvin Norwood, was given 4 years after agreeing to plead guilty to assault causing great bodily injury. This is actually 1 year less than his credit for time served, meaning he could walk free tomorrow. Co-defendant Luis Sanchez, age 31, was sentenced to 8 years in state prison for his guilty plea to mayhem. As for the victim,
the attack that you inflicted on my son on March 31st, 2011 at Dodger Stadium was so mean and vicious that it has left Bryan unable to care for himself.
He has to wear adult diapers. And I hate having to even say that out loud, but it shows the severity of what you did.
The two men showed no emotion as Stow's father and sisters poured out their pain.
Your lack of regret makes me despise you even more.
The years that you spend in prison is what you cretins deserve.
Being here, I'd hope to see one tiny bit of remorse in order to not think you both are that despicable. But I don't.
That lack of remorse prompted the judge to break what he called his customary silence.
This is a kind of case that screams out that comment be made on this.
As Sanchez smiled and shook his head, the judge called him a public nightmare, and what he did...
absolutely brutal, absolutely vicious, and absolutely, in my opinion, cowardice.
Marvin Norwood may have served all his state time, but it turns out he will not walk out of jail. Both men are also facing federal firearms charges, and authorities say they will immediately transfer Norwood into federal custody. Catherine.
And if you are questioning why these two men who attacked Bryan Stow did not get longer prison sentences, you are not alone. Part of the reason goes back to the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. Prosecutor Michelle Hannessy says the case did not support attempted murder charges, and that probably would have meant longer sentences. Hannessy called the situation frustrating, saying that state law prevented her from going after a harsher sentence. She told reporters, quote, they did get off easy. But she also says that if Stow ends up dying from his injuries, her office does plan to pursue murder charges. Bryan Stow's family, by the way, was consulted on all of this and agreed to the plea deal. Pam?
So much has happened to Bryan Stow since that day he was attacked in Los Angeles back in March of 2011. He was hospitalized in Southern California for 2 months. Later, he was moved to San Francisco General Hospital. Fast forward now to 2014. The Giants fan just celebrated his 45th birthday. His family released an update on his condition earlier this week. They say the former paramedic is still unable to get up, to move around, or get dressed by himself. His family says they recently shaved Bryan's head, and they say it was, quote, shocking to see the damage to his skull. Stow still faces a long road to recovery. What does Bryan Stow himself think of the guilty pleas and the judgments against his attackers? Well, Crown 4 News spoke with the Stow family priest at the church where Bryan was an altar boy when he was a kid. Father Michael Cross of St. John's Church in Felton tells us that he saw Bryan a couple of days ago. He says while Bryan does not remember much about the beating, Father Mike, as he's known, tells us Bryan's family is helping him to understand.
He doesn't recall anything as to the incident, you know, the altercation, but and he doesn't seem to be vindictive. He didn't say, I hope they get, you know, look what they did. He didn't say anything like that. He just sat there and listened to his parents and, you know, agreed with them as to what was going to take place today and Friday. I just think 6 years is minimal compared to what Bryan is going to have to go through for the rest of his life.
Aside from that, Father Mike says Bryan is getting better each day. He shared a few pictures of them together and some of the other parishioners at a barbecue last summer. And he adds that Bryan is still following his beloved Giants and that his room is chock full of Giants memorabilia and souvenirs. The Los Angeles Dodgers released a statement following today's developments in court. The team says, quote, "We are pleased that the culpable parties have finally accepted responsibility for their actions and have been sentenced for their crimes." The Stow family, by the way, has filed a civil lawsuit against the Dodgers and the team's former owner. And the San Francisco Giants also released a statement today saying, quote, "We continue to support Bryan and his family and hope that this development will help the Stows as they move forward from this tragic event." And stay with Crown 4 as we continue to follow this story. You can watch today's entire court session on our website at crown4.com.